class of lipid which we call the lipoproteins. So we've been looking at different classes of lipids where we've talked about several types of lipids such as the fatty acids, triacylglycerides, sphingolipids, glycolipids, steroids, just to mention a few. But today we are wiping up or wrapping up this topic by looking at this class of lipid which we call the lipoproteins. Lipoproteins, these are the types of lipids made from fats and apolipoproteins that transport insoluble lipids in the blood plasma. So in simple terms, you can just say these are lipids that are made from fats and proteins which we call apolipoproteins that transport insoluble lipids within the blood plasma. Why these lipoproteins? We know that in lipids in nature they are hydrophobic and they are insoluble. So how is it possible that we're going to transport this? How are they going to move within the body? So these molecules, biomolecules, which we are calling the lipoproteins, assist in transporting these insoluble lipids. Of course, there are other channels via which these insoluble lipids can be transported and taken to the rest of the body and cells. But these lipoproteins assist in that process. And the other thing that I want you to take note about this lipoprotein is the structure. That's why some literature, they say these are spherical shaped kind of particles that are found in the blood plasma. They are a core that is made, a core is more like a combination of lipids and also proteins. There are different types of lipid which can be clustered together, mixed with a protein which we are calling the alipoprotein. So that alipoproteins, they combine to form a spherical core shape, which is found in the blood plasma. The way this core is made, it is oriented in such a way that those particles that have affinity with water, they are placed on the outside, and those that have no affinity with water are placed in the inside. So let us look at the three major components or structural components that you can find in an alipoprotein. Alipoproteins or lipoproteins or apoproteins, you find that these lipoproteins, they are also termed as apoproteins. So what you find is that they are made up of three things. Number one, there is a single layer of sphingolipids. Then you also find on the outer part you have cholesterol, which is a steroid. Then in the inside you find now a protein which we call apolipoproteins. So the apolipoproteins, they are the major parts that forms the basis of transport of these insoluble lipids. So this kind of protein assists. It is found in the inside of this core. That is the channel where most of these insoluble lipids such as triacylglycerides pass and diffuse through. So these are the major three components. How do we classify these lipoproteins? So we can classify lipoprotein basing on how thick that core is, that cluster, that particle which we're talking about, which is capable of transporting the lipids that are insoluble. How thick is it? Is it really thick, medium, or low? So looking at the density of these particles, we can classify them. So there are those that have got low density, which we call the low density lipoproteins. Then we have, which is denoted as LDL, which is low density lipoprotein. Then we have what we call higher density lipoproteins. These are lipoproteins that are very thick in nature. When you look at that particle, examine it, you find that its density is really thick. Then you have another kind of lipoprotein which we call the intermediate density, meaning these kinds, they are not really thick and they are also not really they are not low. The density is not low. They are just in between. They are medium or intermediate. Then we have what we call the cytochromos. So these cytochromos, ladies and gentlemen, they mostly assist in transporting the lipids which are insoluble from the digestive tract into the bloodstream using the lymph cells. So these cytochromos, they are the ones that transport lipids from the digestive tract into the bloodstream. So that is the basic classification of lipoproteins.